finished recovering all the refrigerant out of it, the next thing I would do, I would turn this off, valve everything off. I would turn it to purge because there's still refrigerant here inside of this recovery machine. It has a condenser there. It's going to be liquid refrigerant inside of it. We don't want to store refrigerant inside of this because we're going to have to use this again. It might be a different refrigerant. So we want to purge all the refrigerant out. So after we turn it off, we turn this to purge. We open up the high side and leave the low side in a closed position. You start it back up again, and it will purge all the refrigerant out of the high side. That will be the last step before you disengage and take all the equipment apart, the gauges off the system. It's by purging the refrigerant out of this. The way you know that when you're purging it that you have it out, because once you open up the high side and turn this to purge, from the beginning, this is probably reading into a vacuum. It's about 10 inches of vacuum that you pull it down to. However, we turn to purge, it's going to pop up because you're reading the high side pressure now. What's inside of this side? And you start it up, and you will notice the low side is ready to pull down again. When it goes back into a vacuum, you purge all the refrigerant out of the system. At that point, you're good. So the last thing we're going to talk about is a vacuum pump. This is a deep vacuum pump, two-stage, that is designed to pull refrigeration systems into a deep vacuum. This one is calibrated or designed by how much it can pull down and the volume. This one is rated for 5 CFMs at full capacity. For larger systems, you can have a larger vacuum pump. For smaller systems, you can have a smaller vacuum pump and CFMs. However, how deep a vacuum, they all pull down to the same deep vacuum, around 25 inches of mercury. This is about the most standard vacuum pump to handle most things in the field. But if you're working on a supermarket, you probably want a large vacuum pump to pull it down quicker. Of course, if it's just a window air conditioner, you don't need a very large vacuum pump. You could use a smaller one. So it's really based on what type of work you do. So this is some of the components you find. It has a valve. This valve is designed to close off the intake. If you notice, it's got 3 different ports on it. One, you're going to use either 1/4 inch or 3/8 to pull a vacuum. If you got a small manifold set with a 1/4 inch hose, we use this. If you got a larger manifold set with the 4-port or 4 hoses, we use the 3/8. It has a designated vacuum hose on that manifold set compared to the 3-port. And the third one will be used where you would connect your micron gauge. So 1/4 inch for a 3-port manifold set, the 3/8 for a 4-port manifold set with a designated vacuum hose, and this last one, this 1/4 inch also, will be used for your micron gauge. And what we do, we use this valve here to isolate it, to check the system, to see how tight the system is. We'll close it, and you'll be able to read the vacuum. We add oil at the oil fill. We drain oil from the bottom to put fresh, clean oil inside the system. And the very last thing on this vacuum pump would be the ballast, a ballast. This ballast is designed, if you got a contaminated system with moisture in the system, that you know that there's moisture, you don't want to contaminate the oil right away. So you leave this open, it will bypass the oil and just dump it out through this ballast. And then once you get down to about 20-25 inches of mercury, you can close it off and it will start pulling to a deep vacuum. So this ballast is there to allow to relieve any contaminants, keep from contaminating the oil. Again, the oil has to be extremely clean and refine a special vacuum pump oil that we use. It's a very clear oil. If you look at this glass, this gauge glass, you can see the oil level as I move it up and down. It's pretty clear. So the valve, the intakes, oil fill, oil drain, and a ballast, and of course on and off switch. That's pretty much the vacuum pump. Thanks.
Oops.
Okay.
Let's do.
I think you're still recording.